good news. The era of China taking advantage of the WTO is over. This is not alarmist, but the naked reality. I remember years ago I stood on a bridge in southern China at 3 a.m. watching an endless line of trucks rumble towards the port. The air smelled like plastic and sweat, and the only sound was engines rolling through the night. And a factory manager was so proud and told me, Ken, as long as these trucks keep moving, China will keep rising. Well, you know what? Those trucks are about to stop cold because this week at the United Nations General Assembly, Chinese Premier Li Qiang admitted something unthinkable. China will no longer claim to be a developing country in WTO negotiations. That might sound boring, but it's not. It is the single most devastating confession China has ever made, and it signals the end of China's so-called economic miracle. Beijing just took off the emperor's clothes, and now the whole world can see it standing naked. For decades, China played a brilliant two-faced game at the World Trade Organization. At home, it goes, we are a mighty superpower, the world's factory, rising to challenge the US. Abroad, oh no, we are just a poor developing country. Please give us subsidies and tariff breaks. And you know what? The world bought it. This scan gave China a protective umbrella, like special treatment, lower tariffs, delayed obligations, letting China fleece the global system while flooding markets with dirt cheap goods. All the while, China was throwing money around the world like a drunken billionaire. Over $1 trillion spent on the Belt and Road Initiative, constantly bragging about its foreign exchange reserves, building ghost cities and mega projects, while playing the victim card at the WTO. Trump wrote back in 2019 that the US has never accepted that China is still a developing country. Well, guess what? Trump was right. And now Li Qiang has basically admitted it this week at the United Nations, no less. The cheat code has just expired, and Beijing is about to find out what happens when you try to play the game on hard mode. And losing this status isn't just a symbolic title change. It's like yanking the fuel out from under China's economic engine. And here's what comes next. Tariffs on Chinese goods are jumping 3% to 12% in Europe alone. The US has already doubled tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to 100%. Anti-dumping investigations are exploding in India, Brazil, Mexico, you name it. And by the end of this year, 32 countries will cancel special tariff privileges for China. That is hundreds of billions of dollars in extra costs. Practically a death sentence for many exporters. And China's exports are already falling for the third straight year, dropping about 6% annually. And now analysts predict a further $600 billion collapse over the next 3 years. And remember, 60% of China's exports depend on the US and Europe. When those markets close the door, factories don't just slow down, they die overnight. And behind the numbers are real people. About 180 million Chinese workers, half the population of the United States, depend on export, manufacturing. And factories are already collapsing. In Dongguan last year, 4,000 companies shut down in the export sector. In Yiwu, Zhejiang, textile factories are closing because owners don't dare to take orders. Tariffs eat up every penny of profit. And orders for shoes and clothes are rushing to Vietnam and Indonesia, leaving these Chinese workers unemployed. The official unemployment rate is 5%, but the real youth unemployment rate, Goldman Sachs predicted that it is gonna hit 45% and climbing. This isn't just an economic problem. It is a ticking time bomb for social unrest. For years, Beijing strutted around the world like a peacock. We are the future. The Chinese nation is rejuvenating. And then at the negotiation table, it is a complete different face. Please, sir, we are poor and victimized by the West. Give us some special treatment. They wanted self-respect and privilege, as if the world couldn't see through the act. And in a way, China has just been stuck at this giant baby, mentality. Now that fig leaf is gone. China's $2 trillion in annual subsidies to prop up SOEs and dump, cheap cement solar panels on global markets, those days are no longer allowed. They are blatant violations of WTO rules. And the result is wave after wave of lawsuits and investigations. The EU alone is preparing 20 to 40% penalties on green energy products. Many emerging markets are hammering Chinese steel and textiles. So good luck selling your EVs when it costs, double overseas. Chairman Xi. When I worked in finance in Beijing, people used to joke that China's economy is a three-legged stool: exports, real estate, and debt. If one leg breaks, the whole thing tips over. Well, let's check those legs. Real estate already collapsed. Ghost cities everywhere. Debt, 97 trillion yuan in local government debt, and 130 trillion yuan in corporate bonds. Exports, now crumbling before our eyes. Foreign investors see the writing on the wall. FDI plunged 8.2% in 2024, the steepest drop in 30 years. Japanese investment down 40%. US investment down 50%. Factories are packing up and moving to Vietnam, India, Indonesia. McKinsey predicts Vietnam's exports could hit $600 billion by 2030, almost half of China's current level. The title of World Factory will be gone. And this isn't just about trade rules. It is about power and humiliation. For years, China stalled US demands for reforms by hiding behind this developing country card. Now that card is gone. The US wants full market access, cuts to subsidies, higher environmental standards. If Beijing agrees, its domestic companies collapse. If it refuses, tariffs and sanctions will crush exports even faster based on WTO rules. So it's a classic no-win situation. So although China hasn't been bombed by missiles, in a way it is being sniped by the WTO rules. For decades, China pretended to be weak so it could grow strong. Now, it is pretending to be strong while secretly rotting inside. When Premier Li Qiang made that speech at the UN this week, he wasn't just talking about trade status. He was admitting that China's old game is over. That model is dead. The era of China taking advantage of the world is finished. The cheap goods empire is collapsing, and the world's factory is about to close for business. So the only question now is, will this be remembered as the moment China finally stood tall, or the moment it was stripped naked and exposed to the world?